With the booming economy that Indonesia's seen in recent times, housing has become a hot commodity. High-quality housing can be tough to find, and what little there is being offered at premium rates in the most sought-after areas. Housing styles vary from furnished to semi-furnished to unfurnished. Bungalows are common, as are both one- and two-story houses. Most expats choose accommodations that are inside a complex or compound. These options offer a more secure and private environment, and the kids are able to play safely outside. In addition, housing complexes create an immediate community that allow their expats to mingle with their neighbors, as well as providing playmates for the kids. Apartments are also readily available and provide many of the same advantages as a secure complex. Rental prices generally average from about US $1,000 per month to $5,000, and that is in Jakarta. And they certainly can go above that depending on the location, the size, prestige, etc. The minimum lease length is generally 1 year, although upscale accommodations normally require a minimum of 2-year leases. Jakarta landlords normally expect payment of the entire lease in advance, whether you're signing a contract for 1, 2, or 3 years. What this means is that all the repairs and requests should be made up front when you're negotiating the contract, because afterwards you'll lose your negotiating power once the landlord has received the rental payment in full. A refundable security deposit is normally a minimum of 1 month, with rent and/or sublease clauses usually available. Special clauses, such as a diplomatic clause, are sometimes available, but most landlords will not be too happy with these kinds of terms. They find them rather onerous. It is not customary to require a lease guarantor. There are 2 types of lease options. A personal lease is one that's signed by the tenant, and a corporate lease is signed by a director of the company. Either are quite acceptable to the landlords. Traffic is an absolute issue in Jakarta, and everyone is affected, doesn't matter who you are, so this should be a main consideration when choosing your home. Where you live in Jakarta will determine how much time you spend in the car. Usually someone will have to sacrifice, and it's whether that means the children have a long ride to school or a parent has a long journey to work. And you know who usually loses that battle, so be prepared. The home choice will also influence how much time your kids spend playing outside, because cars don't tend to stop for pedestrians, so unless you live in a complex, an apartment, or a very prestigious neighborhood, generally your kids will be indoors. Expat communities are mainly in South Jakarta. There are the more sought-after areas because they have large gardens and are close to shopping malls and restaurants, as well as being close to several international schools. Central Jakarta is one of the oldest and it's beautiful areas in Jakarta and offers a more upscale city type of lifestyle. Apartment living reigns supreme in this area. Some of the most popular neighborhoods include Menteng, Kebayoran Baru, Kemang, Pondok Indah, East Jakarta, and Karawang. Menteng is known for its wide, tree-lined streets, small gardens, colonial-style houses, and its proximity to embassies. This is old Jakarta at its best. Think Batavia, with Dutch architectural influences and paved-over Dutch cobblestone streets. Kebayoran Baru is more expensive, with good access to the city center and shopping malls. They have wide roads, houses with small gardens, and more concrete due to the swimming pools that often replace backyards. Kemang can be very adversely affected by traffic, as many of the roads are extremely narrow. The area has an eclectic mix of housing and few apartment complexes. The apartments that are there are new and are sought after. Some of the properties are old-fashioned, but have great big gardens, which is a real treat in the city. Kemang has a great range of restaurants, pubs, shops, and bars, which many expats frequent. Supermarkets, pharmacies, independent dress shops, coffee shops, and a large organic food shop are also here. Pondok Indah is dominated by palatial houses that often have small gardens and a swimming pool, and that swimming pool may take up the entire outside back area. It's close to both the JIS Silindak and BIS schools. And those campuses are accessible via a toll road. There's a mall, the Ranch Market supermarket, and other amenities. It also features wide streets, lots of old trees, and a real neighborhood feel. East Jakarta is well liked among expats for its proximity to the commercial and industrial areas of town. Housing's not quite as expensive there, but the lower costs are offset by the longer travel distances to anywhere outside the immediate area. International schools are quite far away, so living there with children is not recommended. Karawang is the capital of the Karawang Regency of West Java, Indonesia. It's located 32 miles east of Jakarta, and it is a small town by comparison. Karawang is primarily an industrial area which has lots of factories with many foreign national companies represented in this area. You will not find as many housing options in Karawang as you would find in Jakarta. For expats who have a project or work in Karawang, it is much easier to live nearby rather than traveling from Jakarta. The commute from Jakarta isn't the favored option, as there can be lots of trucks and big container transportation on the road. Housing budgets typically are much lower than Jakarta City, and the size of the properties tend to be smaller too. There aren't serviced apartment options. However, Karawang does have different types of hotels, whether it's from affordable housing hotels to the most luxurious options as an alternative to your traditional short-term serviced apartments. Most international schools are outside central Jakarta and the main business district of Jalan Sudirman and surrounding areas. The most popular international schools include the British International School, which has a big campus with excellent facilities, but also long waiting lists. The Jakarta International School follows an American curriculum and has multiple campuses, but it can be very difficult to get a spot, so be prepared to get on a long waiting list. There are also the Australian, New Zealand, and Netherlands international schools, a French school, Montessori schools, and many other options. Traffic in Jakarta is challenging, to say the least. Public transport consists of buses, taxis, and motorbike taxi, which is called ojek. Ojek is transportation that is not licensed the same way as an official taxi service, and no specific license is required to operate it. It's widely used in the big cities such as Jakarta. The advantage of this type of transportation is it often can be much faster, but you need to negotiate the fee before you take the ride. Try to give yourself an extra hour when you're going to meetings, because the traffic in Jakarta is unpredictable. Be sure to arm yourself with internet functionality on your laptop and your mobile phone. Put the blinders on and let your driver do the work. Local roads, as well as the local traffic rules, are very challenging. Most expatriates do use a car and driver rather than driving themselves. Public transportation is safe, however, it's not always convenient, and we don't typically recommend it. Indonesian culture may be the most challenging issue for some expats, many of whom land in Jakarta running full steam ahead. They can become frustrated with a slower, more laid-back approach to life, not only in the workplace, but just generally. This can be misinterpreted as a lack of sense of urgency, but it is the way the tide ebbs in Indonesia. And given the country's recent economic lurch forward, it is working. Indonesian people are generally friendly and polite, and although they understand that Western culture is different from their own, they tend to communicate in a more subdued and indirect manner. They are definitely not confrontational. Punctuality is not always observed either. So get ready for very quiet Friday afternoons in the office after the noon prayer hour. And last, there's less priority on profits or material success. The top priorities are building relationships in one's family and religion. Jakarta offers a lively dining scene that has something to offer every day for everyone. Whether it's a fantastic culinary delights from around the world or a local fare, you'll have plenty of options in Jakarta. There are a lot of cuisine choices available, whether it's the fine dining in a top restaurant or a more local experience. Sumatran and Javanese cuisine is especially popular with the transferees and tourists, and it garners the most praise from food critics and chefs as well. The price of eating out in Jakarta is relatively low compared to dining out in Western nations. Despite the currents of Islam in Jakarta, alcohol is easy to find. Similar to the restaurant scene, Jakarta offers lots of opportunities and options for grocery and local market shopping. Kamu pasti suka Indonesia. Enjoy.